Hello everyone! I know it's been a while since I've actually done anything, but I assure you I have been testing stuff. Now, I'm just here to really demonstrate a couple of things because I've discovered a new mechanic using both, or a new mechanic that I can use using both Kerbal operating system, KOS, and such things as BD Armory, such as these rocket pods, for example. And my goal is to just kind of show off something that's kind of neat. So if I say run face target, and I say it down here, then I'm going to leave one of these open and stage. Now what this face target command that I'm running is of course just a script in Kerbal operating system that's actually operating on these two small satellites, and the plane is just my method of getting the satellites into a more suitable place where they wish to belong. And I can do it with triggers, but I found it easier just to give it a timer, which is why I set it before I launched, and I'm keeping this open so I can actually see my time. Now, there's some stuff over here of other things I've tested, but there we go, 30 seconds till go. Well, what could that possibly mean? Now, this plane is just one of the stock planes, and I literally attached these things to it, so in no way was it designed to be suited for handling these on its back. But with stock air model, it seems to work fine. Like, this is not currently running Ferrum. So what I'm going to do is just bring these satellites over the target relatively much. I'm going to turn SAS off and stage. And now I don't need that. Now the reason I turned SAS off was because these can't have it on, otherwise the KOS isn't allowed to control them. So what exactly is going to happen? Well, this one's already doing it. It's facing a target down there and firing its missiles quite liberally. Oh, and we have this one down here doing the same thing. And this is just a count for how many it's fired. Each one contains, I want to say 57 missiles. Its math is a little wrong. And after they're done firing, they just kind of slump back and revert to these falling, not really useful in any means. Now, this is interesting, that basically with parachutes, you can create these missile silos. And of course, I could wait for them to have the parachute be deployed, in which case they'd probably be more accurate, seeing as how I don't actually think they hit anything. They do have an issue where I've been trying to fix it, but figuring out the rotation isn't the easiest thing. So the main reason that I've been doing some of this testing is because the implications of being able to have, well, this sort of AI, just in a way being able to have vessels that command themselves. Now, I've always liked the idea, I've liked the idea of there being weapons in KSP. Not so much for KSP's purpose, but just as a mod, because then you can actually create these stories of like some kind of epic war, such as, I think Enter Elysium did World War K, if I'm getting his name right. I hope I am, otherwise I'll look like a fool. But there was this World War K, and it was some big war series. But the one thing I really didn't like about that was the fact that he had to control everything. Meaning, from the enemies to the friends, he was the only thing controlling it and firing it. Versus where with me not pushing any buttons, you're witnessing both of these acting on their own, shooting at an enemy. Now, of course, the aim is a little off. They'd need to offset their aim to face a little more in the up direction, so that they can accommodate for the missile fall down, basically gravity. And once they're, of course, able to accommodate for that, then they can be much more accurate. And of course, when I actually finish up this program, that's exactly what they will be doing. But I think I'm going to show off a couple of the other weird things that are currently sitting down there. So here's another kind of miniature design that I've created that I've just been using the KOS to control, basically this time, a Infernal Robotics Rotatatron, because if I push the 2 key, you'll notice I can get it to rotate. And then I push the 2 key again, I can stop it. So if I were to be able to push the 2 key much quicker than the keyboard response time is, then I can rotate it in small segments, as well as pushing another action group to rotate this Rotatatron in the opposite direction. Now, I don't think this is a feature of stock KSP. I do have the action groups extended mod, which is what's allowing me to do this, I think. But you might be able to rotate this with stock KSP, but I'm not sure about that. I think it is a feature of action groups extended. So this lets me control how the Rotatatron works. And under that idea, KOS allows me to control the action groups. So if I say run the program called aim gun, then it's going to pick its target. Of course, I just hard-coded these targets in, but I can set them more dynamic if I wished. And every about 5 times a second, basically, it's picking where this is based on a lot of different things. It first takes this thing's heading and determines what the heading is, then what the offset of this weapon right here is, this missile. Figures the offset in rotation from the heading of this, and it just uses a lot of angles to determine where things are, and it still gets a little buggy when it's moving. Typically when I move, it's not too bad. It's slow to rotate, but that's changeable. I just don't want it updating 50 times a second and messing with too much CPU all on its own. But this is where it gets kind of trippy, is where it thinks it's turning the wrong way. And I'm working on fixing this. This is again just like a prototype to prove the idea is possible to myself. But basically the heading works that this is a positive number right now, and then when the heading is now on the other side, it becomes a negative number, and that's for some reason still messing with it, even though I thought I had fixed it. It also gets a little trippy when it points at 0, where this rotation goes from 0 to 360 degrees, because it gets a little confused there, since if you notice it's jumping. That jump is unavoidable. Infernal Robotics, the only way I can move it, I can't move it degree by degree. I have to turn it on and then turn it off. Now I can make it slower, so it rotates slower and basically the fine tuning would be greater, but it's always going to have that little bit of a jump. Like if I were to bring this out and I said 0.2, then you can see it moves slower side to side, but it's still always going to jump. And right now you can see much more fine-tuned as it's being able to move in between the jumps. See, now it's jumping at a much smaller pace, although I have to sacrifice a lot of turning speed for this, such as this would take forever to actually target something. Although that jump is kind of ridiculous. Maybe 0.5. I can probably play around with that and figure out better numbers. But again, the main point that I was trying to prove with this is you can use Infernal Robotics to aim weapons. And being able to use Infernal Robotics to aim weapons means you don't have to use guard mode from BD Armory all on its own. You can use, well, this system. Now this system is a little less accurate, but it gives you a lot more control. Like I can set the turning speed, I can set the accuracy on exactly how accurate I want it to be, like the jump distance, how quickly it tracks. Like I said, it gives me more options. Plus I can control the steering of this vehicle, meaning if I want, I can have this thing chase down that one if I wanted to make them both run back and forth. So here I have yet another demented creation that I made just to test something. Now this one actually uses these hover pieces from Kerbal Foundries, and just a procedural tank I'm using to really balance it by adding a lot of liquid fuel at the bottom for weight, and of course more fuel. Now, this one, it's pretty obvious, 4 more of these rocket pods. I like using the rocket pods because they don't swivel and they're not missiles or bombs, so they just straight line of fire from whichever way they aim, and they make it easy for testing. But this thing, as you can see, is hovering. It's got a couple small engines to give it some movement, and it has a script that tells it to chase its target. Now, the script is very crude and very bad, but it gives an essential idea. Like, most of the stuff I'm showing is just kind of thinking that this concept is possible. So, run chase missile version, which is why it's chase M, and as you can see, this thing's taking off all on its own. Now, unfortunately about that is it's hunting, and if it gets too close, it's going to hunt me, or this large target vessel that I've been using. And it's not very good at hunting, but it will start to attack if it gets too close. Basically, what I neglected to do was turn off SAS, meaning that this could not turn itself. So when it got past, it's got to its speed limit, which is 15 meters per second on the surface. I don't want it going too quickly and wasting fuel, or just getting to the point where it slingshots past its target. I put in that speed limit, and when it got past that speed limit, it couldn't use its thrusters, and it couldn't turn because SAS was forgotten by me turned on. So ultimately, it just kind of forgot what it was doing. So there are 2 targets out there. One of them is trying to kill us, the other one not so much. And if you notice, this time, it's still looking at us. And it's actually continuing to move towards us because it's stalking us. And actually, I'm going to stop and actually just let it shoot. I could continue this circling game. And the idea of what it tries to do is it tries to just circle. It never tries to approach, like crash into you. But it does try to circle around, as what it's doing right now. This is kind of its intention. Stay within kill range. And it's actually not shooting because, again, of something I've forgotten to do. I didn't give it a weapon. There, now it's being told that it can use the Hydra rockets. So now, when it does this sweep and comes back around, coming closer, which I'm going to move towards it to help it with, it should shoot at us. Assuming it's going to work, because this one's by far the most experimental. And it's not shooting. Figures. Oh, there we go. It just wanted to get closer, I guess. Now, here's one of the issues with it. Since you can't actually target specifically, you can't work around a location that's moving. Like, you can always look at the target, but you don't always know what you're doing with the target. So this thing actually looks and shoots at the location of the target, the geo position, like latitude, longitude. So it's very inaccurate. I'm sure if I stuck the aiming system for these rockets on top of the, such as what I did with the rover, where I was capable of using, see there, it's shooting again because it thinks the enemy is at the location. Well, that sounded dangerous. But if I used the Infernal Robotics Rotatatron system to target, then I could individually control this, and it could shoot while it was moving sideways versus always having to look at the target, and I wouldn't have to look at a location because it'd be basically 2 separate commands. One that says, hey, gun, look at the enemy, point at it, and tell me what's going on. And, you know, if it's close enough, shoot it. And the other half, it's like, hey, do you want me to circle it or should I try and engage it? And of course, you can create the different scenarios with the different parts. Just run a script that says that's basically the rover one except with movement, which would involve the engines, even though the rover one can move on its own with wheels, simply throttle lock steering or wheel throttle lock, something like that. In the recesses of my mind, I thought, a giant missile that fires missiles, what could go wrong? And a lot can go wrong, actually, but this is, in its own way, another really, really grand concept. So, because if you can fire a guided missile, one that seeks out its target, which of course is always that tanker, it looks for its target and it hunts its target, and then when it's close to its target, it launches more missiles or drops bombs. It was originally going to drop bombs, but then I decided just to put missiles on because it seemed a little more dangerous. Run fire. Here we go, launching. And this thing attempts, as you can see it's tilted a little bit, it very, very barely attempts to try and find a target. And then, of course, it goes up and it lets the missiles down, and then the missiles all go off. So, if I can find it in time. Here we go. This isn't going to be a good day for this vehicle. But just think, why would I need robots that can do their own thing without me needing to control them? Where just one random day I could be driving my vehicle around and ever so suddenly a giant rocket just soars over my head, or a plane, and drops missiles on me. Without me having to actually do it, where I can just focus on my car and show off my incredibly awful driving skills, in which case that I could just roam around and then random things could happen and no one would know why. Well, of course I would know why, because I set up the whole ploy as the master of deception. But I guess we'll just have to see. Anyhow, thank you all for watching. I am PTT GRW, signing out.